Dear students, let's start our class. Today, we'll continue our lesson, Nationalism in India. Non-cooperation. In his famous book, Hinsaraj, Mahatma Gandhi declared that British rule was established in India with the cooperation of the Indians, and had survived only because of this cooperation. If Indians refused to cooperate, British rule in India would collapse within a year and Swaraj would come. Non-cooperation movement is proposed in stages. It should begin with the surrender of titles that the government awarded and a boycott of civil services, army, police, courts, and legislative councils, schools, and foreign goods. After many hurdles and campaigning between the supporters and opponents of the movement, finally in December 1920, the non-cooperation movement was adopted. Differing strands within the movement. In January 1921, the non-cooperation Khilafat movement began. In this movement, various social groups participated, but the term meant different things to different people. The movement in the towns, the middle class started the movement, and thousands of students, teachers, headmasters left government control schools and colleges. Lawyers gave up their legal practices. In the economic front, the effects of non-cooperation were more dramatic. The production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up when people started boycotting foreign goods. However, this movement slowed down due to a variety of reasons, such as khadi clothes are expensive, less Indian institution for students and teachers to source from. So they went back to government school and lawyers joined back government courts. The non-cooperation movement in the countryside. Participants. In the countryside, the movement was led by the peasants, tribals, and the local leaders. For example, in Awadh, it was Baba Ramachandra, a sannyasi who had earlier been to Fiji as an indentured laborer. Now question arises, why the rural people participated? Dear student, here the movement was not against the Britishers, but against talukdars and landlords. The problems of the rural people were different from those of the urban people. The talukdars and landlords were demanding very high rents and variety of other taxes. Peasants had to do beggar and work at the landlord's farms without any payment. The peasants had no security of tenures. They were regularly evicted so that they could acquire no security of tenures. It demanded reduction of revenue, abolition of beggar, and social boycott of oppressive landlords. Rule of Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru in June 1920 started going around the villages in Awadh to understand their grievances. In October, he, with Baba Ramachandra and several others, set up the Awadh Kisan Sabha, and within a month 300 branches had been set up. In 1921, the peasant movement spread and the house of talukdars and merchants were attacked. Bazaars were looted and grain boats were taken over. Alluri Sitaram Raju, tribal prisons. interpreted the message of Mahatma Gandhi and the idea of Swaraj in yet another way. In the Golden Hills of Andhra Pradesh, for instance, a militant guerrilla movement spread in the early 1920s, not a form of struggle that the Congress could approve. Here, as in other forest regions, the colonial government had closed large forest areas, preventing people from entering the forest to graze their cattle or to collect their wood and fruits. This enraged the hill people. Not only were their livelihood affected, but they felt that their traditional rights were being denied when the government began forcing them to contribute begar for road buildings. The hill people revolted. The person who came to lead them was an interesting figure. Alluri Sitaram Raju claimed that he had a variety of special power. He could make correct astrological predictions and heal people, and he could survive even bullet shots. Captivated by Raju, the rebels proclaimed that he was an incarnation of God. Raju talked of the greatness of Mahatma Gandhi, said he was inspired by the Non-Cooperation Movement and persuaded people to wear khadi and give up drinking. But at the same time, he asserted that India could be liberated only by the use of force, not non-violence. The Gautam rebels attacked police stations, attempted to kill British officials, and carried on guerrilla warfare for achieving Swaraj. Raju was captured and executed in 1924 and over time became a folk hero. The plantation workers in Assam had their own understanding of Mahatma Gandhi and the notion of Swaraj. For plantation workers in Assam, freedom meant the right to move freely in and out of confined space in which they were enclosed. Swaraj meant retaining a link the village from which they had come. Under the Inland Immigration Act of 1859, plantation workers were not permitted to leave the tea gardens without permission. When they heard of the Non-Cooperation Movement, thousands of workers defied the authorities, left the plantation and headed home. They believed that Gandhiraj was coming and everyone would be given land in their own village. They, however, never reached their destination. Stranded on the way by a railway and steamer strike, they were caught by the police and brutally beaten up. Dear children, the vision of these movements were not defined by the Congress program. They interpreted the term Swaraj in their own ways, imagining it to be a time when all suffering and all troubles would be over. Yet, when the tribal chanted Gandhi's names and raised slogans demanding Swatantra Bharat, they were also emotionally relating to an all India agitation. When they acted in the name of Mahatma Gandhi or linked their movement, that of the Congress, they were identified with a movement which went beyond the limits of their immediate locality. Dear students, let's recap. Why non-cooperation? Differing strands within the movement. Non-cooperation movement in the countryside. The plantation workers in Assam had their own understanding of Mahatma Gandhi and the notion of Swaraj. Thank you, students. Have a nice day ahead.